Joining us now is Arizona's Secretary of State, Adrian Fonte. Secretary, thank you so much for your time tonight in what, of course, is a super busy time for you as well as your office. Let's start with the news today that a man set a United States Postal Service mailbox on fire in Phoenix. 20 ballots were damaged. Your response to this incident?
Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me, and thanks to the quick responses from local fire at the Phoenix Fire Department, police, and their cooperation with the United States Postal Service. It's my understanding that none of the ballots were damaged enough that they were not recognizable or collectible, so that we could make sure that those voters who may have had ballots that were damaged sufficiently couldn't get new ones and still be able to vote. So we're very thankful for those folks who we've been coordinating with for some time to make sure we've got safe elections.
Early voting has now been underway for more than 2 weeks. Has everything gone smoothly and according to plan? Do you anticipate the turnout will top 2020?
I'm not sure the turnout's going to top 2020. We had a heck of a year a few years ago when it came to that presidential election. It was COVID, and early voting was a little bit healthier than it is right now. That having been said, excitement for the candidates is much higher now. And frankly, we've got more voters now, so we may very well top those numbers. We'll see what ends up happening once we get done counting all of the ballots sometime after Election Day.
But everything going smoothly so far?
Certainly no major incidents to speak of at this time. And frankly, even that post office box that we talked about earlier was not related to any candidate or political ideology that we are aware of.
After the 2020 Arizona election filled with debunked claims of voter fraud and a stolen election, you've said this time Arizona is, quote, the center of the storm when it comes to election denialism. How hard is it to run an election smoothly when you're battling disinformation on so many fronts?
Well, as long as we stick with the fundamentals, we're going to be okay. And that's what we've been preparing for, since I took office as secretary back in January of 2023, with a county-centric approach. And the counties are the ones who run our elections here in Arizona. We've been able to garner a lot of the resources that they need, give them the support they need to get the fundamentals right. That's what the voters deserve, and that's what they're going to get. A lot of the shenanigans and the other, antics, the conspiracy theories and things of this nature, they're more of a distraction. We try to absorb as much of that as we can here at the Secretary's office so the good folks in county government can get the job done for our voters.
How long do you anticipate it'll take Arizona to finish counting the majority of its ballots?
Well, it's going to take about as long as it usually has. It always has, but people didn't notice when we had wide margins on one side of the political aisle. We are politically a much tighter state right now and of much more consequence. So folks get a little bit anxious when it takes us the typical amount of time to get our ballots counted. I think the networks will be making their projections around the same time they did back in 2020, some of them earlier and some of them later. But those projections are just that. The official numbers will come in, we expect, about 10 to 13 days after the election is over.
Is there anything that keeps you up at night with regard to the election ahead?
The one thing that keeps me up at night is the fact that we still have elected officials and candidates in Arizona who are lying about our elections. They're continuing to spread conspiracy theories and mythologies. They're continuing without any evidence whatsoever to challenge the veracity, the integrity, and the honor of all of the folks, their own neighbors, who are the ones that run these elections. That's what keeps me up at night. I'm hoping for a day soon when we can get back to trusting one another as Americans, that we will do our job.
What would you say to those who are not trusting of the process, the democratic process, and are concerned about the potential for violence on Election Day?
Well, first and foremost, I'd say ask the legitimate questions. If you are curious about the process, come to the county websites. There's a lot of FAQs. There's a lot of reports. There's a lot of folks out there who are more than happy to explain the process. In fact, come and take a tour. We've got a lot of our counties who, in fact, I think all of them are happy to bring folks in and let them walk around, not while there's ballots, of course, but look at what is happening and ask those real questions. Once you see the real questions, then look to the fact that our elections are run by regular Americans just like you and me. They're folks who want to do a good job. They believe in their oath. They believe in all of us as citizens, and they believe in our democracy.
Arizona Secretary of State Adrian Fonte, we thank you so much for your time, Secretary.
Thanks for having me.